Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. There has been some crazy days with a bunch of new car launches. We have the Honda Civic, of course, which I've already made a video on, the Lamborghini Huracan STO, and of course the new Subaru BRZ, what was just released today actually. And we're going to talk about some of the spec and tech, and also talk about this new design and dissect it. I'm going to let you know my thoughts about this cool design of the new BRZ. But that's later in the video. So Subaru has taken the BRZ and made it torquier, lower, stiffer, and I have to say they've made it better looking. What's not to like here? Let's start with the engine here. It's got a 2.4 liter naturally aspirated flat 4-cylinder making 228 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. Now compare that to the old BRZ that made 205 horsepower and 156. So you got 184 pounds of torque compared to 156 in the older version. It might be a small difference, but since this is such a small and light car, this change will definitely be clearly noticeable. The chassis of the new BRZ has also been tightened up, and of course the entire car has a new design inside out, which we're going to go into in a minute here. The rear view, the front view, and of course the most important view of them all when it comes to car design, in my opinion, the side view. Now, some of the complaints of the previous generation engine was that it was a bit too slow and that it didn't have enough punch, and people were kind of asking for a turbo version of the BRZ. Now, the new car still doesn't have a turbo, however, peak power arrives at 7,000 RPM, but more importantly, peak torque now comes in at a low 3,700 RPM. And why is this important? Well, that's around the same kind of RPM where the old BRZ would suffer a significant loss in torque and you felt like it wasn't going anywhere. So that has completely changed. So in this new BRZ, you have a lot more torque at a lower RPM, no matter where in the RPM range you are. It's still a pretty light car, weighing in at less than 2,900 pounds. And you can still get the 2022 BRZ with, of course, a 6-speed manual. Getting rid of that would have been extremely stupid by BRZ by Subaru, because that's one of the cars that they sell the most of when it comes to sports cars, is the 6-speed BRZ. And you can also get it, of course, in a 6-speed automatic if you want the paddle shifters in the back of the steering wheel. The overall size of this car is pretty much the same as the old one. However, there are a few minor changes, such as the wheelbase, which grows by 0.2 inches. The overall length is now 0.9 inches longer than before, and the car sits 0.4 inches lower than before. The width is still the same as the old version. Now, talking about the wheels here, the special thing about the BRZ and the FRS is that they are so much fun to drive, but you don't need a V8 or even a V6 or something like that. You don't need massive power to have fun driving these cars. And there is a specific reason for this, and that is because the tires on these wheels are pretty much bicycle tires. So getting loose in the rear end is very easy. You don't need a lot of power or torque to get loose. And the thing with the new BRZ is that they still have 215 millimeter wide tires in the rear and the front. So it's still going to be a lot to skid around this car in the corners. And let's talk about another important issue that's been kind of on the map lately, and that is fake vents. So talking about the vents here, you can see the big vent right behind the front fenders of the car, right behind the front axle of the car. Those are actually functional here on the BRZ. They channel air from under the hood and takes it out through these vents. And the interior is new as well, of course. Now we have an all-digital 7-inch instrument cluster, which looks pretty good actually in the different drive modes here. And the infotainment system is an 8-inch display with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on board. The new 2022 Subaru BRZ is scheduled to go on sale early fall 2021. And with that said, let's jump into Photoshop now and let's talk about this new, crazy, clean-looking design of the BRZ. Alright guys, so here we are, of course, in Photoshop. That hasn't changed either this time in this video. Still Photoshop, and we're going to talk about all the views here of the new BRZ. This is of course the front view, or 3/4 front view as we like to call it, and I think it looks really good. The front end, when I first saw it, it kind of reminded me of the latest Viper before it died in 2018, it might have been 2017. Specifically the lights, if you look at the lights here and compare them to a 2017 Viper, you're gonna see exactly what I mean. On top of that, I think it also, if you just cut the car from this side, from this place right here, from the hood back, if you only look at this portion of the car right here, and maybe take out the wheels too, this portion kind of reminds me of a 718 Boxer and the Cayman, just a little bit. You have the same kind of fenders, and the integrated lights in the fenders sits in a similar position as you have on the 718. But overall, when I look at this car, it looks like it already has a body panel on it, and that, by that I mean this fender line right here. It looks like almost an aftermarket fender, and same goes with this. It looks like a a wide body kit that they added to this car. I'm not saying that I don't like it. It looks good, but when we go to the rear view, I'm going to show you what the problem is that I have with this design, and also in the side view. The front looks pretty clean. I don't have a lot to say about this part right here. It's typical Subaru. They also now integrated finally the actual LED signature of the brand themselves. They've had it for a while in the old one, but it looked like it's an afterthought, and now they actually put it in from the start, and it looks a lot better than the previous generation BRZ, in my opinion. So let's have a look at the side view here, and now we're talking about a blue BRZ, which I think looks good in any Subaru, because that always brings me back to the beautiful Impreza STI from, when is it, 99 I think it is, where they all have yellow stickers and rally cars and all of that. It's always going to look good, this specific blue, on any Subaru. But here we have, what I want to talk about is the line flow. We have some good line flow, and we have some very confusing line flow. So let me show you what I mean. So the main problem that I have with this design here is this part right here. Now if you look at the lines going from the taillight, going from this point right here, let me zoom in. You can see that we have two lines here. We have one going up into the window, and we have one going down. I don't think this line connects to anything here. So what I would love to see here, which I'm going to change really quick in the end of this video, is just have one sharper line that goes something like this, or maybe dips a little bit sooner, something like that. Just not have two different lines, because it looks like the designers kind of worked with engineers and they couldn't figure out a solution, so they just created two lines, one that goes here and then the other line that goes here. And the thing is, you can clearly see these lines when you look at this car from different angles and also in the video, and it looks a little bit weird. It doesn't look defined enough, it doesn't look confident enough. It looks like it's a mistake that needs to be fixed somehow. But other than that, I really enjoy the cool way of integrating the line flow here. So have a look at the greenhouse here, and this part that goes into this part right here of the air outlet, and then this in itself continues down here into the bottom of the car and up here, as you can see, and this then goes into the rear ducktail right here. So this is a line that I really like, because you can definitely follow this all the way around. And actually, now that I look at it, you can see that this taillight is actually what's starting this line right here. So this in itself is a very cool, very interesting line flow. It's not just the one that wraps around the car that I talk about every single video. This is a little bit different and a bit more interesting for me to look at. But at the same time, I kinda wish that there was some line in the door here, something going on. I'm not sure why. I think that's going to require a lot more investigating into this design to see what that could be. It looks good, but the thing is, if you look at the rear fender by itself and the front fender by itself, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of curvatures and stuff, specifically in the front, and then we have this air outlet here, and then in the back we have these two lines right here. And then you look at this center part of the car, and it's very clean. It's like the eye of the hurricane, and this is the hurricane out here, and then here nothing happens. It's totally quiet, no lines, no creases, nothing. And then you have these two very busy ends, the front and the rear end, which is the front fender and the rear fender, and in between there I think there needs to be something connecting them in the middle, or maybe not, maybe just solving this problem right here, which I talked about before, which I'm going to do in the end of this video. Maybe that will solve this issue. But now let's have a look at the money shot of this car, and that is this view right here. I absolutely love this specific view and this specific silver on this car. It looks super clean and really good. Big part of that is the ducktail in the rear. They didn't go easy with the ducktail here. They really integrated it and made it solid and made it significant right here. You can see how it stretches up here. It doesn't look that big on from this angle, but if you go a little bit lower, you're gonna see that it actually pops up quite a bit right here, and it creates this ending that I love when they do on specifically on cars like this, where we have a small car, but then the ducktail becomes such a big part of the design because the rest of the car isn't really that big and it doesn't have a lot of design features on them, but they intentionally made this ducktail a big feature on this car, and I really love that they did that. And on top of that, these lines are just beautiful. I love these taillights. Very clean, very reserved in a way, but that at the same time makes it look so much better than the old one, where you have a lot of weirdness going on. And on top of that, inside of that weirdness, you have the LEDs doing their own thing. But here, everything has a purpose and it looks clean, and you can see that it's also a clean line right here going down as the rear bumper and the diffuser. Pretty simple design on the diffuser as well, nothing over the top, but it still has a pretty clear brand identity, and that has to do with the proportions of the car. If you look at the greenhouse right here, this could be the old BRZ if you only focus on this part right there, and the rest is updated and modernized in a way that I think Subaru and later on Toyota is obviously going to do a very similar car. I think they did a fantastic job with modernizing the BRZ into something that feels more confident and more complete here as well. And not a lot of things on this car feels like an afterthought, except for this part right here. You can still see these two lines right here, one there and one here. So let's see if we can just adjust that. 2 minutes of change, but I'm gonna speed it up anyway and then show you what I'm talking about. Maybe we can make it a little bit cleaner in that area, or maybe not. Let's just see. So I think that's it. It took me about a minute to do this change. I don't know how difficult it would be for the engineers, of course, to create this tiny little change, but to me it doesn't seem like it's an impossibility. Another thing that I noticed here is this interesting thing right here. I wonder what this actually does. This thing right here that sits on the in the wheel arch on the outside of the fender there. It's probably for some wind reducing thing or some regulation that they need to put for maybe stone chips or something like that. But it's just an interesting thing that I noticed when I was sketching this thing. But anyway, this is, let me show you the before and after, and I can show you exactly what I mean. So this is before. You can see right here that we have these two lines again, one going there and one there. So what I wanted to do is just clean it up, create one single line that goes something like this. And that's what I did with this design right here. And it kind of makes sense because you have a sharp line in the front here, right here. So why not create something similar in the back here and just clean that part up? Because it's the only little detail that I saw in this car when I first saw it that kind of didn't make sense to me. So if they were to fix that, which I doubt they will because it's such a fundamental part of the stamping tools and the platform of this car, the design of this car. But that's the only thing that I'm gonna be annoyed when I see this car out on the streets later on, which I definitely look forward to, because as you know, when you see the car out on the street, the impression is totally completely different from when seeing everything on pictures. Most times, 99.9% of the time, when I see a car in real life that I was kind of confused about in pictures, it all makes sense when I see the car in real life. This is probably what's going to happen with the BRZ too. Let me know what you think about this car down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'm the Sketch Monkey. I hope to see you next time. Take care.